Welcome to the Filmistines, the podcast where we discuss all things movies. Join us as we dive deep into the latest releases, revisit classic films, and explore the art of cinema. Whether you're a film fanatic or just love a good flick, we've got you covered. From Hollywood blockbusters to indie gems, we'll be breaking down the storytelling, cinematography, and everything in between. So grab some popcorn, sit back, and get ready for some cinematic magic. If you like what you hear, please consider subscribing to our Patreon at patreon.com/filmistines. We offer tiers at the $1, $5, and $20 level. For the $5 tier grants the ability to request films for future episodes. This is the Filmistines, where movies are more than just entertainment, they're an experience.
They're an experience.
All around you. And welcome back to another great episode of the Filmistines, the fastest growing podcast in the world. Your favorite podcast to come and discuss films with your new friends. And speaking of friends, I'm joined by my wingman friend, Lucy.
Hello, everyone.
And thank you guys for tuning in. You can join us every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday with a new episode from a random movie. You know, hopefully we're covering the newer films. You know, that we're kind of punctual. Hopefully, you know, we're trying to get better at that.
Yep.
We're going to start a new initiative by watching movies sooner as they come to theater and whatnot. And join us soon for content exclusive episodes on our Patreon, including ranking different directors' filmography, our favorite kill scenes and from a variety of movies. Is that how you would say that?
Yeah, maybe favorite death.
Favorite deaths.
How someone died. How someone has died.
Lots of stuff coming to our Patreon, and this episode is about a movie by a director that I didn't know when we were going to cover for the first time. I was curious because he's an important director today, right? Christopher Nolan, of course, I'm talking about, and the film is Dunkirk, 2017's Dunkirk.
Another 2017 movie?
That's our favorite year.
That's not my favorite year.
John Wick 2, Guardians 2.
Guardians 2, yeah. Beauty and the Beast, live action. It's a good year. A decent year for movies.
I think this year is pretty good too.
Which year?
This year,
2023?
Yeah. To give an update, Barbie just crossed $1 billion.
Oh my gosh.
It's definitely on track to take Mario. It's going to be the biggest movie of the year.
No, It doesn't even deserve it.
Yep.
Okay, well, good for them.
Yeah, good for them. I'm glad it's something else, you know? It's not a Marvel movie. It's something else. That's cool.
Although Guardians would have been fine.
Guardians would have been fine, but it just, you know, it's kind of boring. I'm glad other movies are kind of climbing the charts, and it's the second movie of the year to cross $1 billion. Are we going to get a third one? I don't know. I have no idea. It's pretty interesting stuff. Guardians was kind of close, about 120 million short.
Yeah, I guess I would have figured if any of them was gonna come close to Mario numbers, it would have been Barbie.
Yeah, I was uncertain about that third week. I thought things were going to drop off pretty crazy, but it looks like they are staying right in pace. Like we are. It's like 350 the first week, 350 the second week, 350 the next week. It looks like this third week might be the best week of all. So it's kind of picking up steam, but because we still have Sunday to get through. But today we are talking about the famous Dunkirk film. I feel like I didn't hear about it that much in 2017. I know it's his most award-winning film, I think, Christopher Nolan.
I read it won a lot of awards, but I'm not sure if it's his most award-winning. I did read somewhere that with every movie he comes out with, he outdoes himself, so I don't know. But as far as how many awards, I'm not sure, but I'd be willing to bet that, yeah, this one's it.
I'm pretty torn by this movie. There's a lot I like about it, and there's a lot that just seems so unnecessary and confusing for no reason at all. What do you think about this film?
I'm gonna start out saying that I liked it. I think it was, okay. It was I was content with this movie. It wasn't a masterpiece, but it wasn't shit that we've been seeing lately. Am I right there in the middle? Maybe talking about it with you will help me decide which side I am, if I'm on the better side or the worse side. I don't watch a lot of war movies. War movies kind of bore me a little bit just because I think they're a little slow.
I think they tend to be pretty moody.
Yeah, and I don't know. I don't always like that. But this one was a little bit better paced. And
It was short. Pretty short film.
It was short, and I like that.
For a war film, I think especially, yeah.
I also really liked the perspective switch that we had going on here. Did I follow it the whole time? No. Sometimes I was confused on which guy was supposed to be which guy, and kind of makes sense because you have all these people and they're all wearing the same uniform, and you have 3 guys on a plane with the same uniform, same plane. It tends to get a little bit confusing. But I did like the perspective switch, and while watching it, I didn't immediately notice this, but the perspective switch is from land, sea, and air, which I thought was really cool.
You didn't hear me say that during the movie?
No, I didn't hear you.
I told you that.
You did? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't catch it. I was probably ignored you. I'm sorry. I was like,
yeah, you're trying to keep up. Because
yeah.
the whole... I like the perspective change a lot, too. I think that's very cool. And I like that we don't get a lot of characterization with the characters.
Mm-hmm.
I like that because it starts... We don't have a drama happening here so much. It's more of a... And it's an interesting spin on a anti-war film, but from the perspective of desperation, just trying to crawl away from a losing battle.
Yeah, like a kind of survival film here.
I think that's really cool. I think it's super cool, and it's stopping me from loving this movie. Or what is stopping me from loving this movie is the time changes in perspective. The time jumps. Because it happened. We not only have 3 perspectives, we have time jumps in between each of these perspectives constantly, back and forth between all of them, and so they cross over each other, and then you're connecting the dots, and you're like, oh shit, those people those people swimming are actually the people that were on land just a minute ago, or for most of the movie and stuff, and you're just like, okay, it's kind of a fun thing to kind of all come together at the last 20-25 minutes, but it does not serve this movie in any way whatsoever. If anything, it only confuses you because this is all happening within the same few hours. It's not like we just recently saw Oppenheimer and things take place over years, and they approach that through, they go, of course he goes back and forth between time, but he approaches that through black and white, right? And so it helps kind of delineate what we're fucking looking at, there's not a lot of confusion as far as like where you are in time. Not too much, at least.
Yeah, and I was going to bring this up, I guess, when we did Oppenheimer, but that's something I appreciated about that film. And I've seen it done so well in TV shows, too, when they're showing us a flashback or something. And, TV shows can get away with a lot more because they have the time to get away with it. But oftentimes you'll give this character some way that he got hurt. So now he has a scar. So now that's how you know that they're going back in time or not. I don't know if you've watched 13 Reasons Why with me when I was watching those, but I think it's the first season, I think. Our main guy gets hurt and he's got this like big gash on his head. So that's how you know that this is present time because he fell off his bike and got hurt, and in the past he doesn't have that scar anymore. So yes, the audience needs something to know that they're going back in time, especially with all these dudes looking alike.
They're all in gear. They're driving something. They're totally without character.
Yeah.
And that's an important part of the movie that I appreciate a lot, but it also hurts the film because I don't know where the fuck I'm at in time.
Yes.
And I don't know who anyone is, and so it's confusing for no fucking reason, because it doesn't, like, the convergence of it all doesn't add up to anything. There's not some big dramatic reveal other than some of these people get saved, some of these people don't. But we knew that was going to happen. That's just the nature of war. That's the nature of people fighting for their lives like this. So it really does. And I know Christopher Nolan's often criticized for shit like that. The confusing timeline and sound, of course.
Mm-hmm.
I know this got some slack for his sound working, like the normal thing he does where he likes to muffle sound and stuff, but that wasn't even a problem here. I thought it was going to be more of a problem. I thought it was going to be like not a problem because it would have worked here, because not being able to hear makes sense to me in a war setting with all the explosions
Confusion,
and yelling
yeah.
and open areas and stuff and just the chaoticness of it. Makes sense. What are you going to say though?
Oh, yeah, I was going to say that there was this scene where it was nighttime. And so that kind of gives you like it's supposed to give you a clue that this is either a different setting or a flashback. And I guess my dumb brain said, oh, it's a different setting. So now I'm confused on where everyone was at all of a sudden. And, who was what and why were these pilot dudes flying in the air, and it wasn't dark then, but now it is. Like, yeah, it got a little bit confusing for me until the end, and it all merged together, and I was like, oh, okay, yeah, that was them. That was a flashback. Got it.
Yeah, but it's not worth it because it frustrates you to know, because it's not that complicated of a story. It's not like I'm sure I haven't seen Inception yet. We will cover that at some point, but Inception, it's the confusing timeline is sort of important because it has to do with dreams within dreams within dreams, right, or something like along those lines. I don't know exactly, but that seems to make sense to me that time would be all kinds of fucked up, like in Narnia, when they go into although it's very straightforward in the Narnia world, time just happens much quicker in Narnia world relative to Earth world or whatever. And so like it's very linear and it's not overlapping and being weird and stuff like it is in a Christopher Nolan film, but it's just, so that seems to make sense to me within like the dream thing, that checks out in my mind. But it's so just, stop moving around, focus on these characters a little more linearly. You've got the beautiful set pieces, you've got the great performances, you've got the lack of characterization that helps emphasize the body of the army, the military doing their thing, and you've got it all figured out. So I'm really torn in this movie. There's a lot I like about here, but it's like when you meet someone, you get a new girlfriend or a boyfriend, and there's a lot to like about them, but there's just that one thing that bothers the shit out of you. You know what I mean? And it's happening here with me. You know what I'm saying? Or just a friend or whatever.
No. That's the thing that's gonna make you break up with
them. You're just like, God damn it, just take a bath or whatever,
She's beautiful, but she's got toe thumbs.
Or God, Megan Fox.
Oh, Megan Fox.
That's what she's known for, her toe thumbs.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I guess I wouldn't mind too much whether it's linear or not as far as timeline, but just,
I guess when I say that, I don't mean maybe literally. I just mean back up on crossing these timelines over with each other and stuff this much. We need the just less is more kind of thing, although this isn't really a less or more situation, but he goes a little overboard with it. A little bit of it maybe could really serve the movie in some way, but it becomes so frustrating that it takes you away from the movie. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I think it would just help if, it would have just been done a little bit better as far as letting your audience know where we were. Because you can have a smart audience and just kind of let them know where they are and they can keep up.
And I think the way to do that is to have each of the perspectives on different timelines or at different points in the timeline. That's how you do that. You keep each of them linear, but they cross over at different times. And so the air guy, we see, he's flying around, but we see the guys swimming. And then we find out later in the movie, so we're going linear with the air guy. But we find out later in the movie, towards the end still, that those guys swimming were actually the guys that were on land at the, while we were watching at that point in the movie. And then we cross that over. So the next time we watch it, we're like, oh shit, that's them. We know that's them, the first time we see them. And then kind of a similar thing with the guys on the boat. That kind of thing. They're all different. They're all moving forward but starting at different points in the timeline. And so we see the pieces kind of come together by just virtue of paying attention.
Yeah, I guess that would help.
Because
So he needed something. He definitely needed something to make it a little bit more obvious to us, or maybe more understandable here.
yeah,
You
this
know?
is when his
Because I don't think it's a lack of like cohesiveness. It's just a lack of
doing it too much.
doing it too much. Yeah, maybe
He just jumps around too much.
Yeah,
he
it
can
was
jump
a little
around a
bit too
little
much.
bit, but just
That's a good way to put it.
it's especially in something like this. Like this should not be a confusing thing.
Yeah.
If you're gonna, I haven't seen Inception, so I don't. Maybe it's not even fair to say, but I feel like confusing me in Inception makes sense. Confuse me all you want. So I had to rewatch it over and again. I know he's all about forcing an audience to rewatch a movie, and whatever that means, he'll have to develop, and he is developing with it, over his filmography. What was your favorite perspective?
Definitely the land dudes. Tommy and what was his name? Gibson. Fake Gibson or thieving Gibson. I don't know what you call someone. Impersonator Gibson here.
Yeah.
They crack me up, man. Talk about being so smart in like a surviving setting. I really enjoyed watching them too, and a little bit of their dynamic and how they didn't even talk to each other. But
Yeah, I like that a lot, especially because we find out later that he's British. I think we're supposed to be a little suspicious that he might be German.
I was very suspicious.
I think we're supposed to
good.
be, but when we find out he's French and they call him a frog, is that derogatory towards French people at the time? That's kind of funny if it is.
Oh my gosh, yeah. If you're French, let us know.
That's funny.
A frog?
We have a Canadian listener, so if you're familiar with that, let us know on our Patreon at patreon.com/Filmistines. But yeah, I like that they didn't talk at all, and then they just kind of understood that they were gonna do anything by any means necessary to, get out of there first.
Yeah, I really like that. I think though, maybe not weakest, because I don't think any of these perspectives were particularly weak. Just maybe my least favorite would be the
water guy,
the old guy,
yeah,
the yacht guy.
Yeah, he was a little funny. He really, I guess, exuded. Is that the word?
Mm-hmm.
He really exuded the most amount of character because he had this real patriotic thing going on that he had to do this for his country, whether it meant losing his, it meant potentially losing his life, right? And he was real into, doing that, and it's very cool because I guess it maybe doesn't have anything to say about his character necessarily, but maybe the sense of the British like energy at the time too, because I guess this is based on true story, and if all the civilian boats come to the rescue, there obviously must be this sense of, this, all right, it's time for the rest of Britain to kick in. It's not just up to the military.
Yeah.
Which is very cool. Very cool.
Yes.
And I cannot imagine. We don't live in a situation where we can just go across the pond to, like here in the United States, do something like this, but I can never imagine Americans doing this today. Nope. Maybe not Britons either. I'm not sure. So yeah, that is one of my favorite parts of the movie. This like countrywide kind of unity. I like that a lot. I'm with you. I haven't seen a lot of war movies. My favorite war movie is All Quiet on the Western Front. It is a really amazing movie, but I don't have a lot to pick from when it comes to war movies. To be honest, I can't name another one off the top of my head that I've seen.
Yeah, same.
Except fake war movies like Edge of Tomorrow with Tom Cruise. It's a great movie, but it's not, not a proper war movie.
Right. I think the other war movie that I've seen that comes to my head is The Boy in Striped Pajamas. And I think I've read the book too. And that's not really about the war.
Yeah,
more. We don't have war stuff. Huh?
Is it more concentration camp related?
It's more on the little kids' focus and their friendship and the concentration camps. And I guess his dad was a general or somebody important.
Yeah.
And I did see a lot of people comparing this to Saving Private Ryan, but I've never seen that movie.
Yeah, I haven't either. Is that a Spielberg movie? It might be. I know it's a Tom Cruise movie. Not Tom Cruise. It's a Tom Hanks film. One of the Toms.
Yeah, it is Steven Spielberg.
That's interesting. He's done Schindler's List and Saving Private Ryan. Those are two of the most iconic war films ever made. I mean, Schindler's List is often, I think, noted down as one of the greatest movies ever made, like with The Godfather and Citizen Kane and 2001: A Space Odyssey. I think Schindler's List is often in that, which is crazy. Haven't seen it, but maybe someday.
Yeah, another thing I didn't like about this film was how, well, I don't know if I didn't like it or not. I'm still trying to decide if there was a reason why these factors weren't included in the movie. But it was the lack of dirtiness and grime and blood. We had no gore. How are you going to have a war movie with no gore?
Yes. And this is, I don't read into a lot of Christopher Nolan criticism. I try not to read into any criticism because I just don't give a shit about what a lot of other people have to say, because I just want to, approach it from my own unique perspective, right? I don't like being corrupted in any way whatsoever, because especially like hype, hype is very susceptible. Hype is very contagious, I should say, and it can definitely murder a movie for me, or a video game or whatever. For example, I've just played a game called Undertale.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of these early indie darlings that I've told you about, like with Hollow Knight and Shovel Knight. And it had been on my radar since it came out, of course, and I just haven't got around to it. But I played it recently, and it was not very good. It's just not. It's like, it's okay. It serves a purpose, and I'm definitely a victim of the hype, I think, because I have gamer friends, and then they all played it, and so it built from there. So, and I know Christopher Nolan, his audience suffers from that a little bit too, because he has very polarizing, persons in the audience, where people think he's the most pretentious director ever to walk the earth, or that he's the greatest filmmaker to ever walk the earth, which is cool. That's I appreciate a director who can live in that space and still continue to do whatever the fuck they want. I don't feel like they pander all that much to any side. I feel like he makes exactly what he wants. And I guess we recently learned that his wife is one of these people in his lives that she's a producer on his films, thank God. So she has actual, money power, creative power, right, to say, no, Chris, we're gonna have to stop you there. So, but yeah, she helps regulate his in quotes creativity, because just because you can make a Jackson Pollock doesn't mean you should. It's not a Jackson Pollock, right? You don't want to. You can't just throw paint at a thing, and that you gotta. It's either A, it's already been done, and you'll never do it as well, or you just missed your chance to do it, or it's just too much. It's just too much.
Yeah.
And thank God she and several others are probably there to help tell him no, because apparently this film was first approached from the idea that this was going to be all improvised, right?
Yeah.
That's madness. That's fucking madness. You should be spending a year to figure out what the shots are going to look like. 6 months probably minimum. And they were going to try to improvise this. That's madness. Complete madness. This movie would have been $500 million probably if they did that. Probably would have gone in history as being one of the most expensive films ever. Especially because they had so many practical effects going on. So they would have had to reshoot with these planes and stuff. And how expensive does it, is it to get these off the ground and to be going for several hours, several days at a time and stuff. I think I can't remember. I don't know what jets are called, but I was listening to this podcast with this Air Force guy, and he was talking about how I think it costs $30,000 an hour to fly these jets.
Holy crap!
Yeah, and so you can only imagine what that looks like in a film setting. It's gonna take more than an hour just to get one shot on any film. Doesn't matter. So this movie needs to be shot listed out and scripted and everything. You cannot improvise something like this. I can't believe this is, thank God for his wife kind of thing. I can't believe he thought that was an option to do. That's craziness. Is he an egomaniac? I don't know. I don't know was he wanting to flex that creative muscle to the maximum degree? I just don't know, because that would scare the shit out of me as a producer. If I was paying for this movie, I'd be like, oh my God, we gotta tell this guy no. But how do you tell Christopher Nolan no? You know, whether you like him or not. Yeah, you send his wife.
Yeah. Go tell him.
Yeah. Because as a normal producer, I guess it's a perfect match, really. As a normal producer, how do you tell someone who made Inception, Interstellar, the Batman trilogy? How do you tell that person no?
I'd tell him no. Jesus Christ,
you need to be on his crew, because he needs those people. You know, I'm glad he recognizes that, because he could not work with his wife and others. One criticism that I don't see about Christopher Nolan is how too clean his films are. They're not natural enough, and especially in a setting like this, they're just not. They don't have that. I guess they just don't have that naturalism. I don't want to say realism, but they. Where's the filth? Where's the sweat? Where's the?
Oh my God! Yes, I didn't even think about that.
You know, and where's like the desperation? Where's the dread on characters' faces? And you can miss maybe a little bit of that here. This goes for, I think, probably all of his films. Really, his films are just too clean, which is very cool in a way. But you do need to kind of serve the film first over your creative vision. You know, because if you've got a story about Dunkirk, I feel like there needs to be a little bit more going on here as far as just filth and gore go. But I did want to say, one thing I do appreciate that we don't see here that could kind of fit into this is the fear and the yelling and stuff. Because again, you talked about how, like, when they got on the ground, they were like, can they just not go anywhere and stuff? And it's like, I mean, like, yes and no, because you just don't know where the bombs are going to be dropped, for one.
Right.
You
just take it?
You don't have to just take it, but they do kind of end up just taking it because they get on the ground. I'm sure there's someone ordered to do that. But there's this sense of exhaustion. Like, they can't even do anything, even if they wanted to. Like, they're so just defeated and ready to go. And we see that a little bit throughout the film with that one guy who just walks into the water, you know? Like, he's just going to swim out there. You know, what are you going to do? You know, you're like 70 miles away. I don't know how far away England proper is to the mainland, or Britain proper is to the mainland. But it just, that kind of stuff resonates with me a lot, because they're all in an orderly fashion. When the planes come by, they just drop to the ground. When they're on the bridge or whatever, the pier thing, they just drop to the ground. You know, it's like, yeah, you could kind of see them jumping in the water and stuff, but then all of a sudden, you know, if you think about it for just a second, especially in the water, if they all just start jumping in the water, they're going to start drowning each other, you know, out of survival panic, right?
Yeah.
And so I guess in a sense, maybe it is better to stay still.
Yeah, I guess the only blood we saw, or the only blood I remember seeing, which is funny because a lot of people died. A lot of people got exploded. But the only blood I remember seeing was on George when he hit his head and got knocked out. I don't know if he went unconscious or what, but, you know, whatever. He hit his head. And what was it, the guy's name? Was it Peter? The boy? The old dude's son? Yeah, and Peter, I guess, touched it and got some on his hand, or was looking at it or something. And the blood was still not red. It was, I don't know how to say it. I mean, it didn't look like blood. It didn't look gory. It didn't look like, oh shit, this dude got hit. You could barely even tell he got hit because it was so dark and just, I don't know. I don't know how to phrase it here, but even then we didn't get any of that. But then again, is it something I needed for this kind of film? I don't know. We didn't go fight the enemy. I mean, we don't even see any of the Germans. We basically just see the British side. So it kind of makes sense that we don't have a lot of fighting scenes. You know, none of this killing each other. I don't know. I don't know if it's necessary or not for this type of film. But I do think we need some of the griminess at least.
Yeah.
You know, who knows how long these boys have been without a shower. And we see him several times trying to take a crap. And obviously they're out pooping everywhere. I don't know about everywhere, but at least over there somewhere. So there's an element here of these boys don't have a bathroom to go to. They don't have a shower to go to. So we do need some of that. The blood, okay, I can live without the blood maybe, but I'm all about gore, so I don't know. And you even have the scene where a dead body is floating in the water and they're kind of like trying to push it back or push it away. I don't know what was going on there. But even then, you don't have like, you know, you don't see anyone's face. You don't see the paleness, the deadness in anything. So I don't know if I need that or not.
Yeah, I feel like we got so little of it that does start to hurt the film, because we could have seen maybe after they dropped some of the bombs or mortars, we could have seen. We don't need any close-ups. I don't think necessarily what I'm about to say, but just some arms, stray arms on the beach. You know, when we get these sweeping landscapes, maybe we see a leg here and there. You know, or just a torso that's just been it's got a gap in it or something.
Yeah.
We don't need any close-ups to, you know, kind of focus on the graphicness of it, because that's the graphic and violent nature is not the point of this film.
Right.
So I get the resistance to kind of get into that, because you know, gore and how graphic a film is it varies. That is such a big range for how much people can take, you know. So maybe any bit of mutilation was just too graphic for Christopher Nolan. Maybe he doesn't really, you know, maybe that's just not a thing he appreciates in the film. And I say, this is a very kind of conflicting thing in my mind, you know, that you want to serve. I said earlier that we want to serve the story, and that's only really half true, because I think the vision is the most important part of any creation, especially film. But when you start to write a story, especially a very grounded, realistic, maybe based on true things, this kind of story, you are kind of forced by the nature of the story, the nature of the project you're working on, to bend some knees that maybe you normally wouldn't go down, you know, to get. And that includes, I think, a little bit of gore. And you could PG-fy it a little bit by keeping the camera off of it, you know, because I mean, there's not anything more graphic. We get one instant of it. There's just no decapitation. There's no limbs missing. But pushing that dead body away in the water, there's nothing more graphic than that.
Yes.
He's basically like, you know, kind of like, ugh, you know, like, this is, you know, this, I can't
Get
fucking
away from
look
me.
at this, you know?
And we also get a little bit of blood when they pick up that guy from the stretcher and try to go take it, which is also one of my favorite scenes there.
Might be the best scene in the whole movie. It's
that
awesome.
Was good. That was
and
that
they're
was
silent. Good. It's so good. And then there's just a bunch of rumbling of other people from the military and stuff, and they're trying to get through the crowd and everything. And it's like, that's actually, you know, and this film, I will say the timeline thing is kind of fucked up in my mind with this movie, but the editing saves it a little bit. The editing's really good.
Yeah.
I know I think it gets the Oscar for best editing that year or whatever. It's definitely great editing, because if it didn't have great editing, the timeline jumping would have been 10 times more confusing, but they managed to save itself somewhat towards the end. But yeah, when they get him on that stretcher, when they see that guy he's like dying, he's not quite dead, and they find a stretcher somewhere and they put him on there. It's so good.
Yes. But even then, we could have made this guy more dirty. Made this guy at least have more blood, maybe somewhere else. Bits and pieces of that.
Maybe we could have got a shot of like some blood dripping through the stretcher.
Yeah.
Like a shot. Somehow the camera was up under there and we were seeing their feet, and then like we just saw, you know, a little bit of blood drip.
Perfect.
Something like that.
Like
I think we would need a little bit more, but here and there. But yeah, we are definitely missing the little bits of graphic gore we needed here. I totally agree with you. I do think that should come second to the filth, though, because the filth is so it adds to that desperation and just like, you know, just we need to get out of here, just fear.
And the only time we get that, maybe not the only time, but the only time it really stuck out to me was when they're in that boat and they're waiting for the tide to come in to push them back into the sea. And I guess they're getting shot at because someone's using them as target practice.
Which is awesome.
And then that's when they get desperate
So cool.
and they're like, well, who the fuck are you, guy who hasn't talked? Gibson? Is that even your name? And then, they try to get him to go out and kill those guys. I don't know. Oh, no, they need to lose some weight. That's right. They need to lose some weight to get the boat moving. And that's probably about the only time that there's some of that desperation and maybe some of that dirtiness there. But I think that also only comes with the fact that it's dark in there. So he's kind of tricking us into thinking that there's that going on. But there's not. We're just in a darker area. So he can't light it up and make it beautiful.
Yeah, he's just forced by virtue of the setting that they've made that it's gonna inherently look a little filthy. Absolutely. And I guess that is towards the very end of like their timeline, so maybe there is this escalation of filthiness, but these people should have started out filthy.
Yeah.
Because they're not just this isn't their first day on the job. It's kind of like in All Quiet on the Western Front. That's like one of the coolest things about the film is how at different times different people become just so filthy because they're the different things that are happening in that movie. And it probably won all kinds of awards, but I think it did win like production design or whatever at the Oscars and stuff.
Yeah, I think so.
Not that that's a mark of a great film or anything, but it's hard to. It would have been someone would have been like, it's a little fishy that these guys didn't win because it's just so in your face, the filth in that movie. And I know we're on the sand, we're not in the mud, so there is that difference. But sand is filthy too. Like it's just it dries and falls off a little sooner, but that gives you the creative freedom to have sand in different places. And because when you're covered in mud, you're just covered in mud. You're not.
Right.
It's gonna look the same in every scene, so you do need to be careful because you don't want to just be filthy all the time. So you want to make it when the filth comes off, you want to make it important to the film.
Right.
Some kind of sense of relief. But here it's we get these big explosions in the sand, and we don't get any bodies that are really torn up, and it's missed. It's definitely missed. That would have elevated this film to really great heights.
Yeah, I agree. And I don't think I would have ever noticed
if you didn't watch Sisu.
If I didn't watch Sisu, yeah.
That's funny.
Cause that dude took a bath and he was still fucking dirty.
Yeah.
Cause he lived out there. So wow, fucking great job, great detail, like paying attention to detail kind of shit. Oh my god. So now I'm
keeping an eye out.
I'm keeping an eye out.
Yeah.
Because when they were throwing those bombs or whatever, and our boy here, Tommy, ducks and he, I guess he like lays flat on the sand and covers his head, and you just see his hand. You see him covering his face, and you see his hand, and he's on the sand, and then you see the bombs, boom, 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 which I thought was a great scene.
Everything on the beach is 10 out of 10 amazing. It's some of the coolest shots of any movie ever made.
But then his hand, it was fucking cleaner than mine.
Yeah.
His hand was so clean. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Great scene here. But, dude, I know you didn't just wash your hands.
Yeah. Maybe the oil scene where they're swimming through the oil and they're getting on that little boat, the civilian boat. Maybe that's Christopher Nolan's answer to like, all right, here's your filth. Maybe he's a germaphobe. He's just like...
Maybe he's a germaphobe.
Because I haven't seen all of his films. I've probably seen half of his filmography, but we'll go through it. But I don't think any of his films are really dirty. They don't really have and not all of them should be, of course, right?
Right.
But there should be, it can be, it's an important feature in filmmaking, and it can be very cool, like it is in Sisu and All Quiet on the Western Front. The new All Quiet on the Western Front, I should say. It's a remake.
Yeah.
Well, it's actually a re-adaptation of the book.
Yeah, I don't know.
However you want to phrase that, but
yeah, I guess we already talked about two of my favorite scenes. The one where they're carrying him on the stretcher, and then that one when the bombs drop and he, he's covering his head. But another one of my favorite scenes is the intro.
Oh, I was about to say.
That was good.
It was a great intro.
Great intro. That was good. I liked it. I was like, okay, I don't really like war movies. Or it's not that I don't like them. Maybe I haven't seen enough. But the few I've seen or the bits and pieces I've seen just bore me. So I don't know. But this intro got my attention.
Yeah. Another problem, though, same problem we were just talking about. When these people got shot, you're just like, did he get shot? I couldn't even tell. We see a little bit of dust, and maybe, okay, if you get shot if you get shot by these weapons at the, during I guess the early days of World War One. When did this take place? 1940, 1941, 1940. During the early days of World War Two. These weapons didn't just obliterate people. Like some weapons maybe do. I'm not super familiar with guns either. I'm sorry, guys, but for the sake of a movie, I almost feel like, I don't know. It's just this negotiation that has to happen. Like, do you want to serve the realism? Okay, these weapons don't just shred people, and so it's maybe a little less obvious that it's just, killing folks.
Mm-hmm.
Or do you want to kind of dramatize it? I'm not. I know that's, a very important distinction and very different, and what are you going to take, and you have to commit to one or the other. And so I don't know if this was a very realistically created film. I need to be told and shown, I guess, if that's the case. But I was a little like, oh, they got shot. It was cool though, but it was just like, I want to. Where are the bullets? I want to.
Or where are the people yelling like, oh, I got shot?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
My friend back there. I don't know. Yeah.
But that's also, I appreciate that. See, it's such a funny thing because they're so done. They don't have any yells left in them. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So I like that, and he commits to that all the way through. There is just this element of, we're fucking done. We want to get over here.
We want to go home.
Yeah, and then we get it a couple times by maybe the general or commander or whatever their title is, where we can just, he's like, I can see the land.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, damn,
they're so close.
They're so close, and like it just gives me that sense of like, when you're lazy, you see a thing, I don't know what I'm saying. But it just gives me, when he says that, it gives me a good sense of his desperation, and just, but not desperation to the point that he'll do anything to get over there, but just desperation and exhaustion, and just like, if this last thing doesn't happen, we're all gonna die.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. It's just, it is good. It's well acted, well directed in that way, and it just suffers from not building. It suffers from the timeline thing and the filth, of course, in that it doesn't allow that tension to build in me, whether or not they're gonna make it across, because it jumps around too much.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like that intro a lot, because I guess it almost kind of feels like they feel safe for a split second, and they're like getting some water, about to go to the bathroom and stuff, and then just get taken off immediately, and then we got one guy who escapes. And I mean, I even asked if it was it the French who killed them? Then they couldn't tell because they were too far away. I don't even know. And I think that's, maybe it is Beth. If that is something that happened, that friendly fire, accidental friendly fire, I guess it is. If it's friendly fire, it's inherently accidental, I guess. But I imagine that did happen, because, I mean, can you, especially if people are so filthy, can you even tell what side they're on?
Yeah.
I don't know. And I like that, maybe if that does happen, if that was a very realistic point, I'm glad that they didn't like tell us either, because they could have and been, it would have been like, oh shit, that happens. But I'm glad that it kind of leaves it up for interpretation.
Yeah.
But then he walks out and he's like, I'm English. It's funny. It's I mean, it's not funny, but it's funny.
It's yeah. Reading about this film and you know, pre-production, is that just before it started filming, I guess? It was pretty cool, and I think it made me appreciate the film a little more. There were actually some scenes shot at Dunkirk, and when the scenes that weren't were shot somewhere else just because of how much of the settings or landmarks or whatever were destroyed during the war, so they couldn't use those. So I thought that was pretty cool. I was also reading that the costumes were all like hand sewn from this wool. I don't know, fancy wool. I don't know fabric terms. And like the shoes were made in Mexico, and that they needed like 6,000 extras. And then you're hand sewing these costumes for your 6,000 extras? What? That's pretty cool. It's insane. You can't just CG people. You can, but the commitment here, oh my gosh.
Yeah, you have to admire Christopher Nolan's know-how and commitment to do that. Yeah, that's crazy talk right there.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And it puts, I mean, I don't love Christopher Nolan, but man, it is hard not to admire that kind of work, you know? He's Jesus Christ, that's amazing. And, you know, he rented out and had all these planes refitted to make this film possible. It's just like, what?
That's crazy.
What? And then it's I mean, it is crazy. It's just, it's unbelievable. I mean, I don't really get the pretentious point on Christopher Nolan. I don't know why people say that, because he clearly knows how to make a film to just the craziest degree. He knows how to make everything happen.
Mm-hmm. And he does his research.
Yeah.
Just from the little bit of reading, you know, it's not 100% factual in that these characters were real live people.
Yeah.
But he did his research. But
that's an important point of the movie, though, that none of these characters have names, really, you know?
Yeah.
They do have, some of them have names, obviously, but it's actually, I mean, I guess that's worth bringing up before I forget totally, is I kind of have a problem with Harry Styles in this movie, because he's a face that we know, you know? And it's kind of an important thing in this movie of people you're not super familiar with, and he's a superstar, and so he really he brings an unnecessarily amount of character to a character who doesn't have any character, you know? So it's just,
yeah.
And I know I saw he got hired for the job because of his look, his classic old-fashioned look or whatever they said on the wiki page or somewhere where I read. But I wish he was just a random bozo and not Harry Styles, because
Well, I will tell you that I didn't immediately notice that it was Harry Styles. I had to. I looked at him. I'm like, that dude he's either Harry Styles or looks a lot like him, and that was it. I didn't think much of it until after I looked at the wiki page, and then it confirmed, and I'm like, oh, okay, it was Harry Styles.
Okay, that's good. That's good. And it is worth noting, I guess, that he wasn't front and center. I don't think at any point. He was always behind the front and center, or like in a group, and especially like in the hull of that boat. I think that was probably his most screen time.
Yeah.
He was always kind of obscured by, you know, the lighting or just other people and stuff, and the editing's pretty quick in that bit, so it is kind of hard to focus on him. So I will say that.
Yeah, and I think all of the British soldiers that were main here were British, and that reminds me a little bit of I guess J.K. Rowling and wanting to keep her cast
as authentic as possible.
I love it.
So yeah,
I like that. That,
especially when it's called for and it's not just. If it's just called for, you know, because the opposite of that is just diversity for diversity's sake, and that just doesn't make sense. That doesn't make sense anywhere except in a really specific handful of, you know, situations.
Yes. So Little Mermaid, you fucked up.
Yes, it's actually completely idiotic. That film's so bad. I want to see a Christopher Nolan Little Mermaid.
I don't think it could be worse than the Little Mermaid that we had here. So
yeah, no, it'd actually be probably pretty good. What do you think of the pilot who, was really good at his job, who landed in the sand, Tom Hardy's character, and got taken away by the enemy? Would you rather him have crashed and like sacrificed his life? He worked, he performed his duties to the very end, right before he, just had to bite it. Or are you glad that he was able to land miraculously and got fucking taken as a war prisoner?
Yeah, I do have a problem with that. Either I wanted him to at least eject and use his parachute.
Why did he not eject?
I have no clue.
Why did that other guy not eject either? Who landed in the water?
I think he said something. He said like, no, I think I can land this or something. He said something. I know he justified why he didn't, because he opened up his little thing.
Yeah, but why does it matter? Why would you want to land it? You're going to land in the fucking water. Get out of there and then parachute close to a civilian boat or something. I know that he saw that civilian boat.
Yeah, I don't know. But I kind of wish this other dude, Tom Hardy's character, is that what you said? Yeah. I wish he would have died. Like,
it would have
been
been cool.
His last, like a sacrifice.
Yeah.
He would have sacrificed himself. That would have been awesome. I did forget that he got taken away. So, okay, all right. There's a little bit of redemption there. Okay, he got taken away, but I just wish he would have crashed. I wish he couldn't land as gracefully as he did. Just because everyone was cheering for him, and he killed the enemy, so all these people could survive basically. And then we see this like scene of all these civilian boats coming to rescue everybody. I needed that last like, oh, this guy just died and saved everybody, and it's such a beautiful moment. But no, he landed all gracefully. Everyone's still cheering. He's like, haha, good. Look what I did. His plane got caught on fire. I don't know what happened there. And then they took him. It's like, all right. I guess I'll settle for this ending.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of Requiem for a Dream, where we have these different characters who we were seeing like the many different outcomes of what can happen in a war setting. We see people getting crushed by the boats. We see people drowning. We see people get away, of course. We see people get taken down in airplanes. We see people get destroyed by bombs. Some people shot. And then we of course have to have the prisoner of war. It's just, it just wasn't the setting for that, I feel like.
Yeah. I agree.
That would imply that all these Germans were
right there.
And yes, we knew they were right there. They kind of said that they had that like area blocked off. I don't know if there was like an agreement to let the Brits get back to the mainland. Because, war is kind of funny like that, where you're given a chance to recoup and stuff and everything. There's rules to war. I don't know if you know that. You'll have to read about it.
Nah, if you're in war, you're in war. You know what I'm saying?
I don't know, because, I don't know. I'm not a war general. Do we bomb the civilians of our enemy?
Yes.
Do we take out their sacred areas, their churches, and their culturally important areas?
Heck yes. Take the wives, take the children.
We take out their farms, we take out their food supplies and stuff. So it's, I don't know.
Destroy them, flood them, catch them on fire.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. But
it's like very, because it's...
That's what I want in movies.
Yeah, of course. But cause the civilian's not the enemy, right?
It sucks to suck, man. Just sucks to suck.
Yep, that's what the Mongols said too. The 900s.
Yeah, I don't know if talking with you made me either move from one direction or the other on this film. I think I'm leaning towards like a 2.5, maybe a 3, but I wouldn't watch this movie again.
And I would have a hard time, I'm with you, and I would have a hard time recommending this film solely because it's a little frustrating to watch. And it really is that editing. I can get over, not the editing, but I mean, I guess it is, yes, literally the editing and where the cuts take you and stuff, but the timeline, the overlapping, converging timelines, it's just so unnecessary. And if it's, I can't believe anything, but I believe it's to give you this satisfaction and like, oh, those are those people, swimming in the water and things like that towards the end. And it's just not enough because it's not a big reveal for a serial killer or a who's done it or whatever, I guess. And it's not that those are any fucking good anyways normally, but it's not a big dramatic reveal,
Yeah.
So it does hurt. I'm with you. I'm sitting at a 2.53 as well. I can't really decide which way I want to go.
I feel like a 3 I would recommend to somebody if they had nothing to watch. And it's like, well, you could probably watch this. But I don't think so. I think more closer to a 2.5 for me.
That's interesting. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe I'll have some kind of revelation with this, but I'm with you. How much do you think this movie cost to make, man?
Okay. So here's my thoughts before I share the number. The costumes, like that, oh my god, I can only imagine. And then you said the thing about the aircraft. You have these boats. I'm sure you shot on water. Oh my gosh, there were so many things. And then it's a Christopher Nolan film. So I feel like that you just kind of have to up it a little bit just on that fact alone.
Yeah, it shoots on IMAX. Very expensive.
Okay. So I went with 310 million. Oh no, your face. I was originally thinking 250, but I'm like, holy shit, the 6,000 extra French people?
Yeah.
Or
is it worth mentioning that it's only an hour and 40 minutes? It's pretty short. He did have over 50 hours of footage at the end of filming, though. So.
Yeah, no, that's not worth anything. I don't know. This one was tricky.
It is tricky. I'm with you, and I'm surprised, actually, at the budget. After seeing it, I would guess high, too. But is it even higher than your thoughts?
Even higher than my thoughts? No way.
No way? Okay.
No way.
Are you ready to lock that in?
No, I'm not locking anything in.
It says here that it's 82 to 150 million. It's way cheaper than I would have thought.
82?
Yeah, which is not a range. You can't have a range that starts with 1 and then it is the double of that starting point. That's not. I mean, I guess that is a range, but the budget can't be the range like that. That's just
funny.
Doesn't make any fucking sense. But yeah, so
I'm way off.
Yeah, I mean, I would have guessed upwards of 250 as well.
All right, well, you win some, you lose some.
Yeah, I mean, that's a sign of he knows how to spend his money. He knows how to. He's good with money, apparently. At least in this film.
Yeah.
At least in this film. Every film's different, of course. But this movie did go on to make quite a bit of money. 527 million. Very good.
Oh, wow. Good job, man. Good for you.
It's more than Tenet. That made like $5.
That also put me to sleep.
Tenet sucks.
Yeah.
Tenet sucks.
That was rough.
Tenet is like this weird thing that he had to get out, kind of like David Lynch and Inland Empire. He just had to get it out of him, and it's not very good. Or maybe it's a test. I mean, I have this theory with David Lynch's film, Inland Empire. I think it's a test of his audience, in that he's testing the audience to ask the question, can I make anything? And they're going to think it's good. And the answer is yes, that his audience does say that. And I say, you guys are fucking idiots. This movie sucks. Inland Empire sucks. And I think if I remember correctly, it's a film about making films. And that is in itself kind of proves to me that it is a film to test his audience.
Yeah.
You have to go watch it to really see that, I think. And I haven't seen it in a while. Maybe when I rewatch it, I'll think it's the greatest thing ever. But thank you for watching this film with me. It's a very good. It's a good watch. It is a good watch if you're don't have a lot of other movies to watch and stuff. You should try to watch the best of the best out there. Of course, we're all guilty of not getting to the best of the best, and we watch fucking Chicken Run. I mean, not Chicken Run. We watched Chicken Little. That's what I meant to say.
Okay.
For the 6th time. It's like, why are we watching Chicken Little? I don't know. The movie's trash. But Chicken Run's pretty good. We have an episode on that if you want to go check that out.
Dude, Chicken Run is a classic.
Yes, that is true.
Don't be hating on Chicken Run.
No, I'm not hating on Chicken Run.
All right. But you're welcome. You're welcome for watching this film with you. I feel like we kind of got out of a bad movie slump there. We didn't, shoot out of this slump.
No, it's tough to.
We crawled out of it.
Yeah, great films are rare. Like they should be. They should be rare. We don't want everything to be great because then all of a sudden you're like, God, do I have any taste at all? You want to have some kind of caliber, right? To be able to see where you're at in the world, be able to think about movies in a really creative and productive way.
Yeah.
And criticize appropriately. And this is a great film. I feel like there's obvious things that could make this film really great.
Mm-hmm.
That just, I don't know how they didn't happen. I don't know how the filth wasn't obvious. Okay, the gore, okay. You want to keep this movie maybe PG-13. I get it. Just for the sake of ratings, and that's, our movies typically don't do as well as PG-13 counterparts. But the timeline thing is a real hang up, I think. And it's frustrating. And I don't want to be frustrated in a film like that,
Yeah. I don't want to be confused.
Yeah.
That's the last thing I want to think about. Where am I at in this film?
Yeah. At least, confusion in that way. As far as like confusion and like, I don't know. But
yeah. Like confusion, and then you're gonna, give me the reveal later, make me go, oh, and go like that. Okay, yeah. I'm for that. But confusion, as in I have to find where I am, and then, I'm 10 minutes later, I'm like, okay, I think I know where I'm at, but then it didn't even matter anymore.
Well, thank you guys for tuning in to this fine episode of the Filmsteins. Was it a good episode?
Yep.
Thank you. Thank you for saying that.
You're welcome.
I hope everyone at home has a good rest of their day. Drive home safe if you're driving.
Don't text and drive.
Don't text and drive. Don't drink and drive.
Don't drink and
That's
drive.
a good one.
Yes.
Don't shoot fireworks off in your car.
That's a good one, too. Don't speed and then crash into car washes.
Yep. That's crazy shit right there.
Stay safe.
Stay safe out there. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
And that's a wrap for today's episode of the Filmsteins. Thanks for tuning in and joining us on our cinematic journey. We hope you enjoyed our discussion and gained some new insights and perspectives on the world of movies. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast on your favorite platform, especially Patreon at patreon.com/Filmsteins. And follow us on social media for more film-related content. We love hearing from our listeners, so if you have any feedback, suggestions, movie recommendations, or book recommendations, please feel free to reach out to us. Until next time, keep watching, keep loving the magic of movies. This is the Filmsteins signing off.